What is the danger of arrogance and how to recognize it? Every person has dark personality traits. They manifest themselves under different provoking circumstances. Surely you have seen the calmest friend go into a rage. The most judicious one loses his head and makes inadequate decisions. Of course, we all know how even the most honest ones lie. The difference is only in the intensity of the negative manifestations. Simply put, some people are more positive, while others, on the contrary, are negative. However, there are some dark character traits that become a constant. They are no longer manifested from time to time, but are woven into the personality, changing it beyond recognition. Arrogance is one of them. Arrogance syndrome. In 2023, a large-scale study on the signs of a toxic personality took place at Maastricht University in the Netherlands. Leading sociologist Jean-Paul Zelton identified three main traits: excessive arrogance, contempt for others, and a reduced connection to reality. Combined in the same mind, these qualities form one of the darkest personality flaws: arrogance. We are familiar with examples of arrogance that have led to the most unfortunate consequences. The myth of Icarus from ancient Greece tells about it. Jafar from Disney's Aladdin or Ursula from The Little Mermaid are vivid examples. There are real historical examples as well. When reading a biography of Napoleon, one can notice a loss of touch with reality, contempt for human suffering and, of course, arrogance. Unfortunately, it is quite possible to encounter arrogance in everyday life. Worst of all, when it infects one of your friends or family members, then the problem can no longer be dismissed or turned a blind eye to. Researchers speak of arrogance as a contagion because a person is never born this way. It is always an acquired quality, obtained as a result of some activity. Some are corrupted by even the most minimal power. Others become rich, but at the same time turn into something morally awful. Arrogance is usually associated with achieving some form of success, and it progresses when there is no one around to point out the problem in advance. Jean-Paul Zelton suggests that the arrogance syndrome can be diagnosed in advance, primarily by pride swollen to hubris. We should not forget that, to a greater or lesser extent, each of us has negative character traits. Point a finger at someone who has never gone into a rage, never lied to himself for his own benefit, never showed cynicism. Therefore, you should not rush to diagnoses, but you should definitely pay attention to the extremes in a person's behavior. What is the danger of arrogance? Arrogance is a quality that develops gradually. The boundaries of permissible and permissible expand as you move towards the intended goal. At some point, there is an outgrowth of a normal personality disorder like narcissism or another form of antisocial behavior. Success increases self-esteem and creates a form of addiction. The person wants to experience this feeling again, so he or she strives for new achievements. Once the goal is the very process of achieving goals, then social norms and morals give way to the formula "the end justifies the means." Soon a person becomes insatiable in his desire to become even richer, to gain more power or influence. Everything around him turns into useful and useless tools to achieve the goal. Events in life influence our views and change our personality. Sometimes small touches are added, but it happens that the personality is replaced completely. A person can be a little arrogant, but it does not cause much harm to others, except that it is simply unpleasant to do business with him, and friends and family have to bear grudges. With the growth of arrogance usually increases impulsiveness. In this state, a person demonstrates recklessness and irresponsibility. This is where the real problems begin, because, having power and money, an arrogant leader or politician is ready to risk not only his resources, but also the lives, or well-being, of people dependent on him. Signs of arrogance. If we consider the arrogance syndrome from the medical point of view, it is necessary to identify symptoms that allow us to diagnose the disease with a high degree of probability and quite accurately. Jean-Paul Zelton offers a set of such signs, emphasized from an earlier study. In 2009, political figures in the UK and the US were observed. This experience highlighted several criteria that can be translated to ordinary people in everyday life. An individual must demonstrate a sustained change in behavior over a long period of time, a couple of months or longer. Then it can no longer be written off as a lingering joke, random emotionality, or someone else's negative influence. The change occurs in adulthood after achieving great success or gaining power. Impulsiveness and apparent disrespect for others increases over time, taking on an irrational form. The individual exhibits the ultimate display of self-centeredness, demanding a privileged position always and everywhere. Finally, the individual must not have health problems that may have influenced the change in behavior in this way. We are talking about brain damage or being diagnosed with a fatal disease. Another ambiguous trait that is not described in the research is self-reported speech about oneself in the third person. For example, the self-praise of Caesar. Caesar cannot be unjust. It is also worth paying attention to the use of the royal we when a person is talking about themselves. This can all be just a joke or wagering, but it is not excluded an escalation into something more serious. Is it possible to cure arrogance? There is no definite answer, Since much depends on the circumstances and the object itself, it is absolutely much easier to stop the growth of arrogance at one of the stages than to fight with its ready form. In the latter case, only the presence of personal unquestionable authority will help. However, arrogance can overcome even this, if the goal turns out to be more important, and, as we remember, this is more than likely. Actually, that is why it is extremely important to detect potential arrogance at early stages, when your word is still worth something and weighs something. Arrogance does not develop in a day or even a year. The catalyst can be anything from winning a school competition to getting a new position at work. Among other things, it's worth remembering that arrogance is easy to see in others, but extremely difficult to see it in yourself. It is even more difficult to realize how destructive role it plays. If you have suspicions about yourself, try looking around. Evaluate how many old friends you have lost and why, and how often you ruin relationships with people just because you think they are stupid, unprofessional, unworthy of your society.